All right, I'm going to start warming us up in the bullpen, as they say in baseball. So, my name is David John Dukas, and I am the executive director of the Master of Science program. I don't know where you all see people on your gallery view, but the gentleman in the V-neck sweater is Dr. Stephen Hansen, who is the incoming director of graduate studies for the Master of Science program. His official start date is on Tuesday. Lucky guy that he is. So I am tasked with giving you a little bit of background. Oh, Lauren is from Lake Charles, Stephen. So Stephen was at McNeese State.
I was at McNeese State some years ago, so yes.
Yes, well, good on you. So I just want to give you a little bit of background. What I want to do is I'm going to do a share screen thing and see if I can get my PowerPoint up, so I can talk through some things, and we'll have lots of time at the end of this in order to go ahead and talk through it. So let's see here. There we go here. And then what I need to do is go to full screen. And there we are. Well, there we are. So first things first, the Master of Science program is inside the School of Medicine at Tulane University, and it's within a structure of the medical school, an educational structure of the Biomedical Sciences graduate program. So we have a variety of anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, et cetera. And so we're one of about 15 programs. We are the humanities wing of that program. And so when you apply, you're actually applying through BMS. And they have a program called SLATE. So when you do generate your application, you're going to be looking for the Bioethics and Medical Humanities, or the acronym of BEMH within the SLATE system. So just to remind you how to find your way to the Master of Science webpage, there it is, medicine.tulane.edu/bioethics. And Sofie Affengenden, who is the person in the black who is got the window behind her. There you go. Hi, Sophie. So she's our program coordinator, but she is far, far more than that. She is also a PhD in philosophy with a specialty in neuroethics. So let's see a little bit more about, let's see, Tulane.
Inspired by our motto, not for oneself, but for one's own. We're leading the way. We're creating opportunities. We're transforming campus. We're joining our neighbors. As Tulaneans, we are defined by our relentless pursuit of a better tomorrow.
So that gives you a flavor of what has been going on around here with the pandemic. We were one of the first universities that said, dadgummit, we're going to go ahead and have our classes, and they'll be outside, and we'll have it in ventilated tents. And oh, by the way, since we have temperatures that are going to range into the 70s well into the deep fall and early winter, we can pull that off. So Tulane University is used to resilience, especially after the flooding during Katrina back in 2005, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But they have been also, just to start, it is a nationally ranked university, but also a ranked medical school. And it is a very well-known program in terms of medical education. And as such, as starting a Master of Science program this past year, we are the Master of Science program for the Gulf Coast. So if you're interested in bioethics and you are interested in gravitating towards Tulane University or the South or beaches, we are the place to go to. The program, as an overview, is a 33 credit hour program that has a lot of flexibility. We can build it around your needs. And so this is some shots from the Uptown campus. This is where we have the School of Liberal Arts, as well as other schools such as the law school. And then we have the down campus. And so this is the Murphy building, so named because the Murphy Oil Company, in the wake of Katrina, turned to Tulane University and said, well, we're leaving to go back to Houston now. So how about you give us $1 and we will give you this building? So Tulane said, why look a gift horse in the mouth? And we have renovated this building almost fully now. I think there's only one floor left to be done now, but we are located in the 11th floor of the Murphy building. And if you go to our website, there's actually a tour of that building. The lower picture there is several residents and attendings, and the person in the center is our dean, Dean Lee Ham. So we have three different types of students entering our program. We have two-year Master of Science program students. So this is a fairly straightforward 3 courses per semester, each semester for a 2-year period of time. But we also have an MD/MS program. So this is for people who are very interested in entering the medical school and also wish to take a degree in the Master of Science program. We have a variety of Master of Science programs. I don't want to give them short shrift. So we have things like public health, but we also have business administration. But our program is for those who are interested in medical ethics and in medical humanities, and it allows you to complete both degrees within the 4-year time frame. And I'll talk more about that in a bit. We have a flexible faculty development option, and that means for any person in any area of healthcare where they have a terminal degree such as a BSN, an MD, a JD, and they decide, I would like to go back and get a master's program, we are able to do a very flexible option where we can have them do either full-time like the other 2-year MS program, but it can also be drawn out in a part-time fashion to work into their schedule. So we have limited scholarships that are available. These are merit scholarships for highly qualified students. And we promote the concept of a learning community between our students and our faculty. This is part of what happens particularly with our capstone project, which I'll speak about. We've designed the entire program so that we are able to have live video conferencing for any student in any coursework from anywhere who is enrolled in our program. So that means if you're willing to get up in the middle of the night and you're in Thailand, you can be part of this program. More importantly, if you've got an IP address and you can get to our IP address, it allows you on any digital device to be a participant in our program. Now, of course, when we're done with COVID, we're all vaccinated, everyone's healthy. Of course, it is always a wonderful thing to be able to meet in person. But this allows us a great deal of luxury because we already did the technological things necessary to allow for live video conferencing. We were not in a circumstance where we had to suddenly panic and do everything to make this happen suddenly. And so we have a large classroom, we have a quote unquote large seminar room, we have a medium-sized seminar room, and then we also have access to the DeBakey classroom, which is part of the School of Medicine, which is an extremely large classroom. And that also will serve for us for any kinds of guest lectures when we have people visiting. So there are 10 core courses in the program that have been developed. And what you see here are the 4 courses which are fundamental for all of our students. So we have Foundations of Bioethics, Current Controversies in Bioethics, Fundamentals of Medical Humanities, and the Capstone course. And then each student would then select one of 2 tracks. And this will be something that they would do as they are going through their coursework. They don't have to make that declaration on admission. So one can either do the courses of ethical theory, Introduction to Clinical Ethics and Research Ethics in the Bioethics track, and then in the Medical Humanities track, Literature and Film in Medicine, History of Medicine, and Narrative in Medicine. So the bioethics track is looking at teaching, research, and service. in medical ethics and humanities. And that means, you know, if you'd like to do this kind of teaching, if you'd like to help a hospital, if you'd like to help in terms of institutional review board service, if you'd like to do research, whether it's qualitative or quantitative, that track might be the best for you. If, on the other hand, you're extremely interested in doing teaching or research or cultivating new areas and mining new veins of humanities-based scholarship and research in narrative, reflective writing, fine arts, and history, then the medical humanities track could also be the right one for you. And importantly, if you wish to take courses from the other track, you're free to do so. Those would be part of the counted towards the elective time for you completing the degree. So we have, at this juncture, 5 electives. We have one more right now in the hopper, as they say. So these are the end of life in film and literature, philosophy of medicine, neuroethics, the doctor as author, and environmental ethics. Now, one thing I want to hasten to add here is all of our course descriptions are on our webpage, so you can read like a good paragraph plus on each of these, so you have a better idea of what these courses will offer you. So this is what the curriculum would look like for the traditional 2-year MS student. And so we have 3 courses per semester. And the reason we have done this is there's a minimum of 9 credit hours in order to apply for financial aid. And so that's why in year 2, semester 2, you see an optional elective. We basically added on a little lagniappe so that if you're going to be applying for a scholarship, you'd be able to then do so because you're taking 9 credit hours. But you can see how with bioethics and medical humanities, everything is the same in that first year. And then you see sort of divergence occurring because you have ethical theory on one side, history of medicine on the other. And then in year 2, semester 1, you see more of a separation because you have clinical ethics, research ethics, and then you see narrative medicine and literature and film. But in all cases, everyone comes back together to do a capstone course. And this is a course which is really a project. It's intended to be an education or policy-based project, which is geared towards helping either health practitioners or patients or both, in which you're going to try to do something to help others. And this is something that I feel very strongly about, and I've developed in the past at other programs where I've been at, which I feel that is a very good idea so that students can take the knowledge that they have and then apply it to real world problems to help them. So this would be a wonderful opportunity for you to sort of bring your knowledge into action so that if you are strongly driven towards social justice and change, this would be a way to say, okay, how can I then express that through a project that would help either sensitize practitioners or help operationalize it for our patients. The MD-MS program is a little different, and there's a really good reason for that. They're taking the coursework when the medical school is not having coursework. So let me explain. In the first semester of the first year, that's a fairly rigorous semester, probably more so than you've seen before in your own academic history. And so that's why in year 1, semester 1, I'm going to start there. We have 1 course, because having more than that can be overtaxing when you are hitting the rush of information, the drinking from the fire hose is the metaphor that people use when you first walk into medical school. So as a result, what we have done is the summer prior to walking in the door and your white coat ceremony, 2 electives are taking in addition to Foundations of Bioethics in that summer. And again, that can be taken here if you've made the move down to Tulane, but it can also be done remotely if you've not yet come down to New Orleans. In year 1, semester 2, then you also have the courses that you see illustrated there. Now, the important thing is that in year 1, semester 2, and then in all year of year 2 in the medical school, Wednesdays and Fridays are carved out and left without any medical school curricular time so that we are able to allow for our coursework to run. In addition, you can also take School of Medicine electives that our program in medical ethics and human values has, such as the one that I direct at the New Orleans Museum of Art on the art of observation. You can do other things. So you can take our coursework, and as long as the timing will work, you can also take other electives in medical ethics and medical humanities. So there you see in semester 2 of year 1, current controversies, ethical theory, history of medicine, and then clinical ethics, research ethics, capstone for the bioethics track, and then narrative medicine, medicine and literature and film, and capstone. If you've been counting, you're seeing that all the coursework is done by the end of the second year. There's no need for taking more courses in the third or fourth year. Actually, the only time you'd be able to do it, it would be electives in the fourth year. But this, and you can still do that. But what I'm saying is you've completed all the requirements for your master's degree before you even enter the clinical wards. And it frees you from that concern of, oh, gee, I still have other coursework to take care of. So what are you going to do with this degree? Well, you're going to have a new set of skills and a new area of knowledge in medical ethics, medical humanities, and in teaching and doing research in professionalism and humanism to enable you to do a broad area of teaching, service, scholarship, and research. My biggest push is that anyone who's earning a degree like this should be then looking towards their terminal degree. Unless they're a mid-career professional, I would be saying, and now what are you going to do? Because having a master's degree is not a terminal degree occupation. You can do staff work and things like that in hospitals and the government. But if you're going to be doing something as a practitioner, then I would be saying an advanced degree in medicine, in law, in social work, in public health, or such as a PhD in humanities would be the next step. So the kinds of things that you would do with the degree have to do with education, with academic research, serving on hospital ethics committees and IRBs or institutional review boards, and also healthcare ethics policy development. So you may be wondering if there are a variety of schools that you've seen across the country, why Tulane? And I want to answer by saying we have an outstanding educational program here in medical ethics and medical humanities where you'll be engaging with an exemplary faculty in medical ethics, in medical humanities, and in healthcare. But you'll also be part of this learning community in which we foster collaboration between our students as well as working with our instructors, which then will allow you to become that much more enriched to go ahead and do research and education in the future. So we're trying to prepare you for a future in which you can, as I put it, question anything and examine everything. Now, New Orleans itself is a place to come to. We have a national reputation for multiple hospitals in clinical care and conducting research. We are also part of the COVID vaccination programs. This one here is the Janssen study is the one that has been making the next wave. You've already heard about the first 3. And so this is the next one, which is coming down the pike. So we're going to wind up with a multi-prong, pardon the pun, given the syringe impact, effect of trying to work with the United States population to have many different vaccines that'll be available. New Orleans is one of those sites where this research is happening. We have also a very specific healthcare needs populations. For instance, Tulane Medical School has 12 different street medicine clinics. And this is one of the things that prompts students to join Tulane School of Medicine as a medical school. Tulane and New Orleans has a known history of resilience in the face of Hurricane Katrina. We also have a history of dealing with pandemic. So this was one of the schools of tropical medicine. It is still named Public Health and Tropical Medicine that helped to ultimately vanquish yellow fever. And we also have a history of trying to deal with the historical quandaries of healthcare inequity and how to redress those areas of inequity. So the MS program in bioethics and medical humanities is going to help our patient population here in New Orleans. And then when you go on to other places beyond New Orleans in solving healthcare and system problems. But the other reason why New Orleans is a wonderful place in terms of culture, in terms of food, and in terms of music. And yes, we are a little bit curtailed in terms of the frivolity with COVID, but people are still enjoying themselves. This is a wonderful temperate environment. And yes, we are going to have Mardi Gras. No, we're not going to have parades. So how are we going to do it? We're going to figure it out somehow because people want to celebrate Carnival. So as you see, we have pictures from the French Quarter. That is here and here. This is on Canal Street. This is in City Park. This is from Mardi Gras, Jackson Square, Bourbon Street. One of my favorite icons of art is Blue Dog, as well as on Magazine Street. So here's a little bit of Lagniappe, a little extra about New Orleans itself.
When people learn you are moving to New Orleans, they get jealous. Why? Because they know that while you advance your career, you will also be fully educated in how to get the most out of life. Known as the Big Easy, NOLA, the Crescent City, the City That Care Forgot, and a multitude of other nicknames, she is a living being and a world-class city with a culture of her own. New Orleans is deeply rooted in the past, but with modern touches. Of course, there's Mardi Gras, but our festivals go year-round. Our food is world-class, whether you want a bite, something casual, or are out for a special occasion. And we love our cocktails, which only makes sense. As legend says, the first one was invented right here. And for all the fun, we are also a family-based city with lots of activities for young ones to enjoy. You can spend days wandering our art galleries and museums, or enjoy a variety of public spaces, either within the city proper or just outside its limits throughout our beautiful state of Louisiana. We are a sports mecca where fans rally around the NFL Saints in our iconic Superdome. And we also have the NBA's Pelicans if hoops is your thing. And while most of the world sleeps, our nightlife is unrivaled with an immeasurable number of intimate venues. You'll also learn new ways to pronounce things, like Burgundy, Calliope, Beignet, Chapatoulas, and Lagniappe, which means a little something extra. And that Lagniappe is what makes New Orleans so special, because we are all her family.
While you enjoy the fabric of the city of New Orleans, understand that you're absolutely a part of it.
New Orleans has just a huge culture.
It's an amazing city filled with great food, great culture, great music.
For whatever reason, it just kind of sits right with your soul.
They just incorporate you into their life as if you're one of their own immediately.
You're going to love the city and you're going to love Tulane.
So here's the information again in terms of our web page. And what I will do is I'll turn off the screen sharing and put us into gallery view so that we can now take questions. Kathy, are we going to do this by chat or are we going to do this just by having them flip their mics on?
I think it's available either way. The directions I'll put in the chat, or you can put it in the chat, or I think sometimes it works better if you raise your hand. If you want to speak, you can either raise your real hand or you can raise your virtual hand.
Right, whatever makes you happy.
Whatever works.
Yes, go ahead. Shruti?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually applied to the MD program at Tulane already over the summer.
Good
So
for
if
you.
I were to apply to this program, is it separate or do I have to do it together somehow?
It would be done through the BMS website. So there's a link where it says apply here, and that will take you to the SLATE program. Now, if you do initiate a application, I would strongly suggest that you just let Dr. Offengend and Sophie know about that, because if there are things where we can just port over, like letters of recommendation or your transcript, we can do that. It doesn't seamlessly do it. We have to sort of give a ring and say, hey, can we move that over? The things that would be extra that you would need to do, because you don't need to do new letters, you don't need to do transcript, but we always ask for a writing sample just to see an example of any kind of humanities-based writing that you've done, and some sort of a personal statement of why you'd like to take the degree, how you would be able to fashion this in terms of your future in healthcare or in teaching or in humanities.
Okay,
Good question.
thank you.
Yes. Spencer?
Yeah. At what point in like a student's career should we apply to this program? Like the beginning of senior year, end of junior year? Yeah.
Probably, I would say in the senior year, because then that way you can then make plans of what you'll be doing in the upcoming summer or fall. And we do allow people to enter into the program at times that will work for them. So it doesn't have to be only starting in the fall. It's probably preferable in terms of just keeping you with a cohort. So that way, that's why we talked about learning communities. It would keep you with a cluster of people that would all be joining the program at the same time. But we are not inflexible about that. If people would like to come in the spring or in the summer, we also can allow that as well.
So I got a question. In addition to the 33 credit hours worth of classes, is there any research that goes on as part of that program?
So in terms of the 33 hours, we can set up independent study to do research as an elective. We are currently in negotiations with the School of Public Health right now. We have a meeting in the first week of December to allow for course sharing between our two programs, which would then allow you to gain access to a variety of research and policy electives that are over in public health. And we hope that this will be something that will go into effect for our upcoming academic year. I have a good working relationship with Dean Leviste in the School of Public Health and Tropical Medicine. I'm very optimistic about that.
We have two raised hands. Taylor?
Hi. So I was wondering, if we are currently employed by Tulane, could we use the tuition waiver for this program? Would that apply to the MS and Bioethics and Health Humanities?
Unfortunately, it does not, and the reason why is they make a demarcation according to the school and how that's going to work. As much as I wish we were able to go ahead and do that, I pleaded the case or pled my case for that, but unfortunately, we did not have that as a granted thing. Yeah.
And Minda?
Thank you. I was just wondering, kind of two questions. The first is if you do apply to the MD-MS program or MD and then apply to MS, is it the admissions process linked between the two? Like, do you need to get into the MD program in order to get into the MS program?
No, you do not need to get into the MD. So let's say you're interested in going to the School of Medicine, but you're also interested in the MS. If you were to get application prepped and sent into both, you will be considered individually for both. I will tell you that I'll be be very frank. When we have a student that we think is a high quality student, we will then send a little love note over to the people in admissions saying, hey, we got this student. We really think this would be a high quality medical student. Please give them a very close look. That's as far as we can push the ball down the football field. But it can definitely help if you are a strong candidate, you've done humanities work, and by identifying you as a strong candidate for the master's degree, that you would then be able to go ahead and be given that strong look over in the School of Medicine. But I'll also follow it up with something else. Sometimes the student match doesn't work over in the medical school. You have to remember, like when we're interviewing students, it's not just your grades and it's not just scores. It's also how do you do when you do a standardized patient interview. That I serve on the admissions committee, and one of the things I look at is what sort of levels of professionalism and empathy come shining through when dealing with a standardized patient. And that's a really big deal. So you can be a great student, but you can still stumble on that part of the application process. Same thing when one is having an interaction with a student interviewer. So let's say in a less than perfect world, you were applying for the MD and the MS. If you didn't get into the MD school, but you did get into the MS school, you can now go through the MS program in that 2-year program, and you would then be able to apply into medical school holding in your hand an MS degree in medical humanities and ethics to say, look at all the things that I've been doing, which would also prep you that much better for medical school. Prior to the existence of this program, Tulane had accepted programs from other Master of Bioethics programs nationally. So I think that it's safe to say that it would be a good portent for the future that if you can get through this program, do well, get excellent letters of recommendation, then applying to medical school here or elsewhere would be very favorable in the cards. And that has been my track record, having co-directed a program like this at another university.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Michael?
Hello. I've also applied to the MD program. My current program that I'm enrolled in right now ends in this coming summer. I'm just wondering if it's possible for me to still enroll in this master's.
Yes. So if you get into the MD program, the way it would work is our program work starts in the second week of May. Now, are you going to be taking work beyond that at your current program, or are you going to be done by that time?
I'll just be doing research at my current institution.
If you're in a circumstance of research where you have flexible hours, and we tend to have things in the afternoon anyway, but regardless, we can navigate the course schedule such that we can account for individual schedule issues. So yeah, that should be fine.
Thank you so much.
Very good. Any other questions? Yes, go ahead.
Is the admissions process like a rolling process, or is there a deadline?
It is a rolling process, and we basically do admissions through the late spring. And so we're not going to go ahead and say, you got to get it in by January 15th or something like that. We allow for that because we know that there are a lot of things going on, particularly now, where people are trying to take an account of what they're going to do with their future, and they want to try to figure out what is the right fit for them. That's why it's my hope that you'll see that this program is an excellent fit for you, intellectually, in terms of how you can serve others, but also in terms of how you can nurture your own soul in a city that has a lot to give you. Even in the depths of a pandemic, like for instance, my wife and I were wandering around the French Quarter, masks on, and enjoying the architecture. And I took audio architecture tours of the French Quarter, of the Garden District, of places like that, just so that it would keep me rejuvenated by having me experience all the wonderful things that New Orleans has to offer. So there are lots of things that you can do without having the full access to Mardi Gras or to its many festivals. If you didn't get it from the video, there's a festival during the springtime and early summer, and again in the fall, just about every week. As a matter of fact, you could have 2 or 3 festivals at the same time. So you'll have, a barbecue festival, you'll have a beignet festival, you'll have the French Quarter Festival, etc. Dr. Stout.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that even in the midst of the pandemic, New Orleans is an excellent place to keep spirits high. Just the other day, so I live near the Musicians Village in the Upper Ninth Ward, which is the sort of the neighborhood that was built post Katrina to house musicians who were displaced by the storm. And I was sitting on my front porch, and there was just a brass band playing up the street, and it was a very, very New Orleans moment where even in the dark days of the pandemic, there was still music in the air and happiness in the city. So it really is a wonderful place.
So any other questions? Because otherwise I'm going to ask each person on the call just to talk a little bit about themselves and their background.
I can't tell if Taylor's hand is up for a second time or if that's left over from the first time, but if Taylor has a question when we get to her, she can. Is that a leftover hand or a new hand, Taylor?
It was a leftover hand. I'm sorry.
A leftover hand.
All right.
Quick question.
Not a new hand. You can always be free to have another hand. I do see a hand though. Minda has another question. Okay.
Yeah, sorry. I was just going to ask what the admissions committee is looking for in terms of prior experience. I think you mentioned a strong background in the humanities, and I was just wondering, is there a specific way that we can
It doesn't have to be a strong background. We do want people who have had the opportunity to be exposed in some way to ethics, art, history, English, in some way. So that makes it so that they'll have an opportunity to have been exposed to analytical thinking and those critical thinking skills to how to structure an argument and that sort of thing. If you came in cold, having been, like for instance, I was a biology and a religious studies major. This is where I took all my philosophy courses. If I'd gone into bioethics with just my biology background, I never would have had the necessary tools that I had been able to pick up, learn, and use from my philosophy of religion coursework. And so what we want is people who have had an exposure, and I like to use the viral term inoculation, that you've been inoculated to humanities in some way. You've had some, and repeated exposures are better, and you don't need a mask for this. So if you have the opportunity to have learned about medical ethics, medical humanities, public policy, English, fine arts, music, dance, these things are all part of what people may have as their background coming in. So we have students who have backgrounds, for instance, in graphic arts or comics. This is a really big and emerging field in the last 15 or 20 years. And so it's a way of transmitting not only for health professionals, but also for patients, fundamental concepts of what it's like to experience a medical narrative using graphic arts and graphic comics. Okay?
Thank you.
Yes. And this is Allison. Yes. Hi, Allison.
Hi. Hi. I was wondering if there are any electives or kind of topics within the normal courses that touch on social work or law areas as well.
So we have reached out to social work specifically, and we're trying to set up a meeting to go ahead and do the same thing that I was talking about with public health, so that we'll be able to trade elective time. And so it's my hope, again, I have done this for liberal arts, which means also the Graduate School of Liberal Arts, with public health, with social work, and also with the School of Engineering and Science. So my hope is that during this year, we'll be able to set up the economic infrastructure that'll allow it so that students can take coursework in multiple schools. Tulane has a traditional way of you're a master's student in your unit alone, and then you have to the people like me have to negotiate some sort of a financial arrangement with other schools so that tuition money can be shared. This would allow you all to take courses elsewhere. It would also allow, and this is an important part for cross-fertilization, students in social work to be taking our courses, or in public health, or in liberal arts, or in the sciences, or in engineering. And we want that. We want to have people talking with each other. We don't just want our students. We want to make this as expansive as possible.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions before we move on? So I already said a little bit in terms of my background. I did my bachelor's at the University of Virginia in biology and religious studies, did my MD at Georgetown University, did my internship at UCLA during the height of the AIDS epidemic in 1983-84, did my residency at the University of Kentucky, and then did a postdoctoral fellowship in bioethics at the Joseph and Rose Kennedy Institute of Ethics at Georgetown. And I've served at a variety of different locations, such as Georgetown on faculty, then University of Michigan, University of Pennsylvania, University of Louisville, and I've been at Tulane here since late 2017. My interests are in medical professionalism and how medical ethics and humanities education feeds towards professional formation, but also in end-of-life care, physician-assisted suicide, and aspects of the patient-physician relationship in primary care. So I'm going to go ahead and tag team this to Dr. Hansen. I'll have him say a little bit about his background. And then you can pick someone after that.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you. I'm Stephen Hansen. I will be starting at Tulane, as Dr. Duke has pointed out, very soon. I did my undergraduate work at Rice University in Houston, and did my graduate work in philosophy at Georgetown University, where I did not at all encounter Dr. Dukas. We did not cross paths at all. But after that, I did some postgraduate work at the University of Louisville after spending a short period of time teaching at McNeese State University in Lake Charles, Louisiana. And then I've been on faculty at the University of Louisville since, well, let's see, 2000. Well, let's see. I left McNeese right in between Katrina and Rita. So I've been at Louisville since 2005. But I'm headed back. So my work started as working in how to think about problems of medical ethics with theory behind it, but I've really moved into talking about issues of social justice and how we need to be thinking about the problems in medicine from not just the individual patient and physician standpoints, but from the society that we're actually working in, and all of the additional challenges that gives us. They're big, but they're the things that we really need to be addressing if we're gonna get the right answers to the kinds of problems that we're encountering now.
And the reason we didn't cross paths at Georgetown was I was there many, many years before Stephen. I left Georgetown in 1989, and you started at Georgetown when again?
92.
92. So it
wasn't as bad as
no, not that far apart. Yeah. Just a clean miss. Kathy, I see you on my screen to my left. So Kathy Lazarus, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Kathy Lazarus. I'm a general internal medicine physician. I went to medical school and did my internal medicine residency at Washington University in St. Louis, where I'm also from, in addition to having spent a good deal of my life in Chicago. I had my first faculty appointment at Washington University, actually, which is where I first got involved in medical education and medical school administration. I was the assistant dean for student affairs there, and I developed the student and employee health service. And that actually got me started in my interest in professional development of health professionals, as well as issues in ethics. We happen to have had the first case of a health professional student with HIV back when HIV first got started, and when it was uniformly fatal, and when it was possibly transmissible within the healthcare setting. So that that I was very involved in the legal and decision-making issues around that, as well as student affairs. I won't say years because that'll tell you how old I am. Maybe the oldest person on this call, but my husband and I moved to New Orleans to take faculty positions at Tulane. And I've been a faculty member at Tulane for over 25 years now. I did leave Tulane after 11 years to go back to Chicago to be a senior associate dean. And then I moved back to New Orleans almost 10 years ago to take a leadership role at the VA in education and in workforce development when we were planning to open the new hospital. And then I moved over to University Medical Center where I was their first chief academic officer, which meant I was overseeing all of the medical education going on in the hospital. Since 2016, I've actually been the Associate Dean for Student Affairs at LSU New Orleans School of Medicine, but I still have my Tulane faculty appointment, and I have never stopped teaching at Tulane, despite working at LSU and being a Dean for Student Affairs there. I've had lots of experience with medical students and residents. I teach medical humanities. I started doing that actually at Washington University, and I think it's just critically important for the development of physicians and non-physicians alike. And it's a lot of fun. I teach a couple of electives and I'm looking forward to developing more.
Ben, how about yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Ben Saxton. I did my undergraduate work at Lafayette College in Pennsylvania. And from there, I moved down to Houston and did a PhD in English at Rice University. And then a postdoc across the street at the McGovern Medical School. And that postdoc was in medical humanities, and that's where I feel most at home. That's where I do most of my work and my teaching. And I'd say within medical humanities, I have a special interest in narrative medicine, literature and medicine, reflective writing. So I moved to New Orleans in 2015, and I've taught reflective writing classes, classes on the personal essay at Bard Early College, a program called Youth Empowerment Project. And at Tulane, I've been teaching online elective within the School of Medicine on narrative medicine. This past summer, I taught a class with Dr. Lazarus and Dr. Holliday. I'm a doctor as author, and right now I'm finishing up a class on medical humanities. So yeah, it's a little bit about me.
Okay, Sophie.
So my name is Sophie, and I'm adjunct faculty and also the program manager of the MS program. I earned my PhD from philosophy with focus on neuroethics and neurophilosophy from Tübingen University, Germany. I'm interested in ethical theory, neuroethics, bioethics, medical ethics, neurophilosophy. As a coordinator of the program, I will help you with the process of application, with the application process and registration for courses and for any other questions that you have about the program. I wanted also to add that besides the courses that you will take, we organize a lot of events. We bring a lot of speakers to our program, and we are open to any initiative that you have. We also collaborate with students from med school. So we want to do more than just offer you the degree, and to be involved in the community. And yeah, so I would teach neuroethics and other courses in the program, and yeah, I think that's it for me.
Okay. Let's see, Valerie, on my gallery view, you're next. Can you hear me?
Hi, everyone. It's really good to have you here. I'm Dr. Valerie Holliday, and you would probably see me on the medical humanities track, probably a little more often because my background is in philosophy and English literature. So I took a Master of Arts degree in philosophy from LSU in 1992, and I did the non-thesis option, but my interest and my oral examinations were on continental philosophy. So that would include, the philosophers from the the European continent with a special emphasis on 20th century theory, post-structuralist theory. And then I went back to school. I did a stint working for the, what was then called the Department of Social Services, as a food stamp worker, as we called it sort of colloquially. And then I was a supervisor over Bill Clinton's new welfare reform in the 90s. And I supervised a unit of caseworkers for several years before I went back to school at LSU in English literature. And my interest there was pretty specific. I was critical theory, feminism, Marxism, psychoanalysis. I was very interested in critical theoretical approaches. And so I'm still very much, that's my emphasis, but my dissertation was on conspiracy culture in America after World War II. I was very interested in looking at narratives of conspiracy, which since that time I've decided there are probably not huge conspiracies, but at any rate, I've moved on from that to discover that narrative is extremely important in the human endeavor. And I have sought high and low for an application that would respond to critical theoretical, working with it, trying to massage it a bit. And medicine seems to me to be a really ideal place. If there are institutions that are capable of resisting political machinations, it seems to be medicine. I haven't found any other institution yet in all of my research. I am teaching bioethics through film in the spring to medical students. I taught doctor as author with my colleagues, Dr. Lazarus and Saxton, and I also have an end of life in film and literature course. I think that's enough for now. Thanks so much for allowing me to share.
All right, Dr. Stout.
Hey everybody, I'm Nate Stout. So I earned my PhD in philosophy from Tulane in 2016. And after that, I taught some bioethics in the philosophy department at Tulane, as well as in cell and molecular biology. And then in 2018, accepted a postdoc in this program with Dr. Dukas. And I've been here ever since, now faculty rather than postdoc. And I also serve as the staff medical ethicist at the New Orleans VA hospital, where we do ethics policy development and clinical ethics consultation. My research background is in philosophical psychology and issues regarding moral agency, moral status, moral responsibility. Specifically, I wrote my dissertation on autism and moral agency. And I currently work in those areas as well. So my work in moral agency translated into work in autonomy, which of course plays an important role in bioethics. And I also still have interests in philosophy of medicine and philosophy of psychiatry. In our program, I teach the philosophy of medicine elective. I'm currently teaching foundations in bioethics and will be teaching ethical theory in the spring. So yeah, a bit about me.
All right. So I want to give everyone another chance for any questions, given all of that background information being shared, particularly with those who are not on video. We have Claudia, Jared, Sloan, Lauren, Margaret, and Autumn. And also we've just been joined by Anjali. So if you have any questions, please feel free. And you can also put a question in by chat if you feel more comfortable with that. Go to the chat box.
So I have a question. This is being recorded. If I wanted to listen to this later on, where would I find it?
We will be posting this on our video views page, which is at the MS page. So we'll be putting this at the very top so everyone will be able to see that. Now, if you have any questions, feel free to contact Sophie. I gave you the information there, but you can contact me at david.dukas, D-O-U-K-A-S, at tulane.edu, and Dr. Hansen, which will be shansen4, if I recall correctly, at tulane.edu. So if you have any questions, please let us know. Feel free to wander over to our website again at medicine.tulane.edu and then /MS, Bioethics MS. And that will allow you to be able to see all the things that we've been talking about in detail, particularly the courses and that sort of thing. And if you have any questions, feel free to go ahead and reach out to us. And if you are having any issues with the SLATE application process at any time, feel free to go ahead and let us know about that as well. As in all application processes, they're never perfect. We always have some things that do occur with these kind of automated application programs. And if you have any kind of an issue, whether it's a transcript being sent or a letter of recommendation, please feel free to let us know about that. And as Kathy has just noted, thank you so much for joining us. And we very much hope that you're seriously considering joining us here for our MS in Bioethics and Medical Humanities. So we do love having a good time here in New Orleans, but we're also dedicated to the academic and clinical application of medical ethics and humanities. So please, please have a happy, socially distanced, masked as much as you can, happy Thanksgiving, and to try to Zoom with all of your relatives at your heart's content, but please keep it down to less than, I'm going to say 6, just to try to go ahead and mitigate as much as possible. Okay? Thank you very, very much. Take care now.
Thank you.